and not just the specific ones.
Okay, do you want to go to YouTube on your computer and see if this is on?
And then
Yeah.
what should, I should be able to hear this, right?
Yes, but I'm
And
just
why
gonna,
don't you,
I'm just gonna mute this. There, okay.
Stegosaurus. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We're gonna get started here in about a minute or so. So if you want to get your stuff ready to go, we'll be ready to start here shortly.
Probably 2 minutes.
We can hear you good out there. I was just on Kyle's computer. Yours is specific was.
Whatever you want.
Well, then I'm gonna filter in here real quick. Can everybody hear me okay, or do I need a microphone? All right, I can project, yes. All right, as we get settled in the room, if you want the Wi-Fi password, you can see the Wi-Fi network and the password and username. Please go ahead and log into that. We will have reminders of that later on. All right, let's go ahead and get started here today. So my name is James Weaver. I'm the Director of Performing Arts and Sports for the National Federation State High School Association. It's been a pleasure to head up the policy debate topic selection meeting. I will be remiss. I'm going to introduce my team here real fast. I think they're in here. Are they? There they are. This would not be doable without the assistance of Kyle Mills and Ken Burke. These two guys over here. They may be on it, but these are the two that actually do all the good work to make sure we're here today. So thank you to Kyle and Ken. Make sure you see him around. Please make sure give him congratulations on making all this happen for us today. All right, again, here's the Wi-Fi information. If you need the Wi-Fi, hopefully you've already logged on, but we can get switched around if you need more information on the Wi-Fi. First thing you want to do is while we're in the big room here, please silence your cell phones. We don't want them going off during the meeting. You can put them on vibrator or on silent and go from there. We'll have built-in breaks, so if you need to check your information on your phone, we'll have plenty of time to do so. Please make sure to locate these things. These are all gifts from our hosts, and we're going to introduce our local site host here in a moment. These are great options for you during the meeting. Someone's cell phone just went off. Please in on that one. All right. An overview of our topic meeting schedule today. So we just finished up with our debatability roundtables, which I thought went really well. I'm excited to hear your feedback about that over the next couple of days. Right now, we're giving a general session. We'll go to the Marshall subcommittees next, and we'll have the topic resolution review before we break out for the evening. Sorry, actually, we'll do that before we go to the Marshall subcommittee. My bad. And then tomorrow, we'll do the wording review for the resolutions with the wording committee. That'll be an all-day thing. We highly encourage all of you to be here for the entire time. That is where we walk out with the resolution wordings we voted on Sunday. All right, so special thanks to our staff at the Sheridan. I don't think anybody here right now, but the Sheridan staff have been great so far. Hopefully you've had a good and pleasant experience with them. I thought the food was actually really good today. And so if you see Sheridan staff, please make sure. Thank you. It's now my pleasure to welcome Susan McLean and Jennifer LeSueur up to the front to welcome us to the state of Oregon.
So welcome to Portland. We're so excited that you are here. Hopefully you have enjoyed some of the great treats that we got. There's plenty out there, so make sure that you get them. And I just want to talk. I'm Susan. I just want to talk a little bit about logistics for tonight and just a few things like what you might want to do for tomorrow. So tonight we're going to go on the Portland Spirit, and we have a bus that is going to take 55 of us. So trying to estimate how many people in advance to order a bus, takes a little bit of work. So we have 55 that can fit on the bus, and Susan's going to be the hostess on there. And if you don't get down there in time, or if you're willing to, myself, my husband, and one of our other coaches from Oregon are going to drive people to the location. But if you were planning on driving yourself, you might want to see me about where to park and what you need to do. So just let us know, or if you're planning on not going, that would be great too. Or if you're not sure if you signed up, you might want to double check with Kyle. That way we can get the numbers down. So when you go tonight, we will make sure you get there, that if you do not find one of us to get the ride back, like go with who you came with. So if you go on the bus, come back on the bus. If you drive with me, come back with me. If we don't see you after it's over with, we're just going to assume you're doing something in Portland and that you're going to make your way back here by yourself. We're just going to make that assumption.
That's a great assumption.
Yes. Okay. These are things to do downtown Portland that you might want to do, but you're going to get a chance to eat a really good dinner, and you're going to have a chance to see some of the best parts of Portland as we go down the river and come back. It's a pretty gentle ride, so don't worry about getting seasick or anything like that. They have lots of food options. If there's something you really are allergic to or something, just tell your hostess. Tell them, like, I absolutely cannot have whatever, but it is a buffet, so you go pick what you want. Unfortunately, it was kind of an expensive deal, so we do not have alcohol included. So it's a cash bar. There are drinks, but if you want to have, 5 Mai Tais, that's on your own.
Remember, we have a meeting tomorrow.
Yeah.
So maybe limit to 3 Mai Tais.
I would also recommend taking a jacket or sweater with you, just because it does get cooler and there's the breeze out there. So you're going to want to do that. And I had some sunscreen out there. I think some of it's here, which is okay. I have more that I will bring with us tonight in case you need anything like that. So do you have anything else you want to say before I talk about tomorrow?
I just want to say, come and have a good time. There really won't be any rules, and we won't be coming around and check on you.
All right, tomorrow night, I think Kyle, did you share that with people?
Yeah, today I'm doing.
Okay, it's just a list of places that we've checked on and that are fun. Some of them are as casual as brew pubs, and other ones are really nice, like Salties. If it says you need a reservation, it'll tell you on there. It tells you approximately how far it is to get there by driving if you're taking an Uber. There are some great locations here at the airport. We did a practice walk last night. It's not a 5-minute walk because unfortunately you need to go down and around to avoid the main, whatever that street is. So you do have to walk a little bit, but it is tree lined, it's pretty shaded. And so, I think it would be nice.
You can also take the bus from here.
Yes, you can take the bus here over to the other side and then take it back. So if you wanted to stay close to the airport, you could do that. All right, so we're gonna do something fun now. We got a lot of cool donations. So look underneath your chair, and if you have a sticker on it, we have some fun stuff for you. So look. What? Well,
Let's see what.
Wines donated, we got some Oregon honey, we got some Starbucks, Oregon flag, and a few other things, so we will do something tomorrow to try to get some new people. Why, okay, all right, let me get this back to James, but welcome to Portland, and if you have any questions.
Well, if you have a sticker at the end of this session, before you go anywhere, somebody grab your things. We do have to get moving.
Okay, sorry.
No wine right now.
I don't want right now. I do want to thank Jennifer and Susan for all their hard work in bringing us here. If you've never hosted this meeting before, it is not an easy meeting to host, and we do want to thank them for having a lot of hospitality here. All right, it's my pleasure to introduce our wording committee for this year. So we unfortunately are missing Sam Norton, who's supposed to be here. He's having some health issues, so please keep him and his family your thoughts for a speedy and full recovery for Sam. Stepping in Sam's shoes is our interim chair, Dr. Rich Edwards. And Eric Odo from Illinois. Dr. Clay Mooney from Pennsylvania. Jennifer Adams, Texas. Debbie O'Sir from California. Lauren Ivy from Georgia. East Redford, Kansas. Well, thank the wording committee. They do their big work tomorrow, but they've been engaged in this process all year long. So you've seen many of their names if you're a topic author. You've seen their names in your reviews. They've been active in the whole process. We really do want to thank them for all the work you do. I also want to do a special shout out to Kevin Minch, who is the person that makes sure that I do what I'm supposed to do properly. So Kevin, if you want to raise your hand and be recognized. I'd like to thank Kevin as he's the official of the debate topic process. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to quickly go around the room and we're going to find out who is all here and where you are from. So basically what I'd like you to do is we're going to start to go domino style, down the rows, just your name and your state, and maybe like how many years you've attended this meeting. So let's start back here and we'll go around the room.
Hi, my name is Steve Clemens, California, here with Shasta, and this is my third meeting.
You know, I'm on Mason, Oregon, online meeting.
David Abel, Kansas, and Greg Montague, Philly High School Activities Association, this is my
Lauren McCool from National Speech Association. This is my third. I'm Amber Von Schaffen from Florida. This is my third.
Stacy Hansen, Iowa High School Speech Association, and I am a freshman.
Maggie Christina, Georgia. This is my second meeting.
Gabby Shermer, Georgia, my third.
Jeffrey Miller, Georgia, third.
Stephanie King, Wisconsin, I think.
We'll go with 6. All right, let's go down here, Darren.
Darren Meyer, Mississippi High School Activities Association. If my math is correct, this is my 13th.
Rachel Clapper Davis, also Mississippi High Schools Activities Association, and this is my second.
Clint Adams, Big Spring, Texas. This is my 5th.
Janet Riggins, Texas, UIL from the University of Texas, and I don't do math, but the first one I came to, I think, was in 1990.
I'm Kimberly from Missouri State University, and this is my.
Ron Owens, Kansas, first. That's Remy, Kansas, and using Darren's math, I think this is either 12 or 13.
Mount Copeland, I'm with Portland Urban Debate League, and this is my first.
Back in Missouri, and I've been here since Sturgis.
That's all you need to know.
Director Sean Knight, high school, this is my first.
Sophie Johnston, Missouri, this is my second.
Tim Cogman, Pennsylvania,
Third. Steve Rowe, Washington State, second. Abraham Corrigan, in Columbus, South Illinois, this is my first year. Dave Levine, Connecticut, this is my first year. Eric Forsland, Georgia, this is my first year. Deja Bayfront, New York, this is my third. Coulter Heinrich, South Dakota, this is my first.
I'm Lauren Giella. I'm the reporter from Newsweek. This is my first year.
Port Sylvester, Minnesota. I don't know, closing in on 20, something like that.
It's been a couple.
Ruth Kay from Michigan. I count in decades instead of years, so I'm gonna say 4.
I started at the same meeting she did, so that's 40 years.
Jennifer Lucier, and this is my night.
Mike Coletti from Chicago, in the NFHS Friends League, is my third.
Mary Grace Cohen from Colorado, and it's my second.
Sarah Sanchez from the National Association for Urban Debate League, this is my 5th.
John Alford from Newark, New Jersey, this is my second. Eli, out from New Jersey, this is my second.
Henry, New Jersey.
First.
Colton, Arkansas Communication Theater Arts Association, I think this is 9. Also, shout out to the Surge team.
It was an impactful meeting for sure.
Blake Ziegler, New Orleans, Louisiana with the Arthur School. This is my first.
I'm Greg Remke. I've worked with various economic education organizations, now economic thinking. My first was in 1984, and I can't remember between then and last year. This is my second reason. Perfect.
President of New Church High School, my second. Dave Linsky, now from high school.
Tim Ellis, Walker Rural High School in Kansas. This is my second.
Brian Gaston from
All right, so thank you very much, everyone. So, by the way, as we do the delegate area, please remember that we want everyone to be included in things. So if you're like, ooh, that person's got a great name, they're from Oklahoma, I should get to know that person. By all means, go see Mr. Brian Chris. All right. We know that everyone's gonna post things on social media in other areas. We just have to keep it professional. Remember that what you say is online, remains online forever. So don't make that mistake. All right. So policy debate topic selection meeting. We have 3 big goals we want to do with these topics. I want to make sure they're student first. We want to make sure that's a big priority. We want to make sure they're balanced resolutions, so you don't have out of whack resolutions. And we also want to make sure that they're relevant topics. Now, relevant topics are interesting because as we talk about things today, this will become the debate topic for the 2024-2025 season, which means it'll be debated 2 years from now. So as we talk about relative topics, we want to make sure they're timely for not only today, but will remain timely for the next 18 months, 24 months. One thing this group has been very, very good at is keeping that happening. Kyle and I and Ken were talking a couple weeks ago about how crazy it is that every topic, the news forwardness of the topic being debated this year that was chosen 18 months before is still extremely relevant. And so I hope that we are still on that pathway today. All right, all of our topics are here: affordable housing, agricultural subsidies, American Art policy, biomedical ethics, copyright, critical infrastructure, dietary reform, disaster preparedness, education reform, and electoral and democracy reform, financial regulation, future of U.S. healthcare, intellectual property rights, nuclear weapons reduction, social media, and waste management are the topics we'll be discussing for the next 2 days. The posted documents that you find on the website, we have meeting agendas and schedules, and delegate list of attendees. So if you do meet someone here like, ooh, I like this as a human being, let's figure out how we can continue to connect after this meeting. Information is on the website. The Marshall Subcommittee purpose document is there as well. If you have not read that, your wording committee members will give you a very 30-second brief thing of what we're doing in those rooms. But those rooms are very important. And when we come out of the Marshall subcommittees, every topic will be down to 1 resolution, which will be setting the work up for tomorrow. We also have the 2024-2025 topic balance for Sunday. And what this is how we're going to vote, as well as I believe the straw poll collection tools up there as well. Talk about that more tomorrow. So we have to do 1 piece of official business. This is for everyone to vote upon. So what we have to do is we do the topic process last year, and then this year we read the resolution. We have to do 1 official vote, which actually makes it the topic for this year's policy debate at the high school level. So Ratification of 2023-2024 resolution resolved. The United States federal government should substantially increase fiscal redistribution in the United States by adopting a federal jobs guarantee, expanding social security, and or providing a basic income. All of those in favor of ratifying this for this year's topic, please raise your hand. Okay, anyone opposed to ratifying this year's topic? Be awkward, you can do it. Okay. Is anybody abstaining from ratifying this year's topic? Okay, seeing no objection, this will be the ratification of the resolution for this year's topic. Congratulations. All right, we have I will say, those of you wondering like why we do this, there was a time, and I know Rich never talked about this, there was a wording problem that was clause. More than once. Luckily, I'm just gonna say it hasn't happened since 2016. All right, so that was supposed to be a joke, it was. All right, so policy debate quarterly, we have this publication, which is put together primarily by Dr. Rich Edwards and his wise counsel and all of that. If you are interested in having these, there are food routes to get this document. They're great publications. Feel free to check out the innovation website for it. All right, it is now time for topic introductions. Dr. Kevin Minch will be timing everyone, which is his favorite role of the week. Like I said, he is the official for the meeting. We'll be going in alphabetical order. Scapegoat. Anyway, we'll be going in alphabetical order of the topic. So we'll start with affordable housing. Every topic author will have 2 minutes to discuss their paper and why they believe it is a topic that we should be discussing for next year's policy debates in the high school space. So we will begin with Dustin Remy and Kevin, are you ready?
Yep.
Great. We'll wait till he comes up here.
Of course.
Y'all remember late October 2010, when we magically started caring about a New York gubernatorial debate. That is when the lovely Jimmy McMillan, candidate for the rent is too damn high party, went viral by declaring that the rent is too damn high. Usually memes die off quite quickly, but the truth of Jimmy McMillan's message, and just go to his website, he is meme bait and it is beautiful, but it's something that is tragically true to this day. So in doing some late in the game research on affordable housing, because the Supreme Court decided to kill my Indian country topic, there are a lot of things that surround housing and its affordability. When you look at the term affordable housing, it tends to talk primarily about the federal rent controls for subsidization of people who can use federal dollars for housing projects or rent. But it is a far more complex debate than that talks about zoning reform, that talks about taxes, talks about the types of houses that we can include. And I was having a lot of thought about whether or not this would be something that would just be a waste of time to discuss the year after we debated income inequality. But thinking about the pedagogical prospect for a topic like this the year after we are discussing fiscal redistribution and other economic pieces to deal with the policy piece, I really think the timeliness of dealing with the crisis towards affordable housing is something that really allows us to equip students with tools from topic to topic. I think it allows us to kind of look at how policies can roll from one category to the other and things about that. I know we're going to have a bunch of conversations about whether or not the federal government can do some of this and a lot about the state's comp plan. And Kevin's telling me to shut up, so I'm going to slowly meander back to my feet. Thank you.
Lauren.
No, that's Preston.
Preston.
No,
I'm not sure how I did that.
I mean, I'm not supposed to offer a paper, so I had nothing to do with this.
Okay, fair. It's a misprint on it.
Saying nothing to do is an interesting way to put this. I'm resubmitting the agricultural subsidies topic paper from last year. It was a top 5 paper. I think it's an outstanding paper for domestic topics. The topic is the federal government should decrease subsidies for agriculture in the United States. That's not the exact wording, but it's close enough. I think it's a great topic. I think it is balanced. I think it is timely. The Farm Bill just had passed, which should provide good uniqueness for the topic. It was a college debate resolution 14 years ago, maybe in 2008, 2009. It is proven that a smaller version of the topic than the wording that we came up with last year can sustain a full year of debate at the collegiate level, which means I have no doubt that it can also sustain a full year of competitive high school debate. I also think as someone who came from an incredibly small rural school in Texas, not to use a very large high school, I can confidently say that this topic has applications to students across the spectrum. Whether you come from a high school that has 50 kids in your class or a high school with 3,000, agricultural policy is central to your day-to-day life and central to the day-to-day functioning of this country.
Next year, my topic paper is gonna be about Zimbabwe, so I can be at the end, tired of being at the beginning. The Arctic is a region of growing strategic importance to the United States. As the Arctic ice melts, new opportunities for shipping, resource extraction, military activity are opening up. The United States needs to develop a clear, coherent Arctic policy that takes into account these new realities. High school students should debate U.S. Arctic policy for several reasons. The Arctic is complex and rapidly changing region with many different interests at stake that directly impact all students in the United States. And it's important for them to understand these interests and challenges developing and helping develop a sound Arctic policy. The high school debate policy topics have dealt with the Arctic before, have had subsets that have dealt with the Arctic before, but it's never directly addressed the Arctic. And it's one of these senses of it's out of sight, out of mind. We don't think about the Arctic being a part of the United States, but because we have controlling interest in, or because we have Alaska, we also have a controlling interest in not only the Arctic shelf, but the Arctic Ocean. So depending on the wording of the topic, there are many different ad cases that can be debated and really right neck ground. And the important things is that the students are given the opportunity to learn about the Arctic and discuss the complex issues that are going to impact their lives in the coming future.
Biomedical ethics.
Think that biomedical ethics would be a very balanced and interesting topic. The biomedical ethics topic would be very balanced because the affirmative would be required to make a unidirectional change, and the negative will have a core generic strategy that relies on medical innovation. It's a timely concern. COVID means that the increase in exposure to medical information has been higher at any point in our lives, and students have a great opportunity to learn about it. In the classroom, it's easy to have novel debates about particular concepts like GMOs or whether or not we should have stricter standards on medical innovation. And there's also arguments that the negative can leverage, which means that there's a broad range of access to the topic. Similarly, there's lots of room for varsity innovation, as advanced medical concepts and journals can unlock interest for students that they would find outside of the classroom. The topic's great for novices, as the increase in health journalism that's been done means that there's tons of narrative focused and accessible information for people to be able to debate the issue at all levels, and there's an interesting controversy that centers the topic. The topic is an excellent application for expanded science. It's a controversy that's unique from previously debated topics, and it's useful at all levels. So I encourage you all to explore this topic. Thank you.
I'll do copyright. So since 1787, copyright has been a huge part of our lives on a daily basis. Copyright protections began in 1787 when the Constitution was ratified by the original 13 states, and has grown from a 12-year protection to now a 95 to almost infinite year protection. So for an example, if it is a corporate work and it's 95 years of protection where we can't do anything with it without strict permissions, to the life of the author plus 70 years, which if I live a long time, that could be 150 years of protection, which is crazy. So what I'm looking for is a reduction of copyright protections throughout the United States and what that would mean in our everyday lives. For example, we can talk everything from Taylor Swift, which we all want to do Swift things, all the way down to Monsanto seed production and propagation. So that has a wide body of information for everybody. And by just reducing protections, we also have the ability to really define what we want as future terms for copyright protection. Even though this is a intellectual property topic, copyright itself is a very large and broad topic that has huge impact within our high schools and our high school students. For an example, every time they do something on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, I don't even know what else is out there. They take music and they share it around. They take a picture and share it around. Every time they listen to music, view art, read a book, anything like that is all in the copyright sphere. And so a lot of intrinsic area for high school students to be able to debate this and really talk about the history of it. Also, the Supreme Court has been very active in the last 15 years or so in what we do with copyright law, as well as the circuit courts. So there's lots of areas from we look at the law and what has been changing within copyright over the last area since 1998, when we had our last update of federal copyright law. So with that, I would like to employ you to think about copyright and give it a positive vote and see where we go in the discussion. Thank you. All right, critical infrastructure.
Right. Before my timer started, I'm only one half of this partnership. Olivia, she can give a little wave. She's back there. This was a doing. All right. So last year, the United States federal government spent almost $37 billion directly on infrastructure improvements. And they transferred almost $95 billion to the states with the hopes that they would be doing the same. Well, we're 8 months into 2023, and I'm happy to report that the 3-foot crater of a pothole is still alive and well right outside of my house. While this pothole might continue to swallow cars, it's safe to say that if we try and choose a topic like critical infrastructure, we're able to solve things like the pothole. And we keep it beyond just transportation and talk about other sectors like chemical security, waste management, nuclear management, any other type of critical infrastructure. There are 16 sectors, and obviously 2 minutes is not enough time to talk about all of them. With that, though, we can also see that this is a very broad topic, and we don't want to debate all 16. We've already said we'll narrow it down. But looking at it, that allows for different high schools of all levels, whether you're a novice or a NAT circuit debater, it allows you to focus on what you want to, and it allows you to debate many of the areas we have already spoken about. So whenever we're able to talk about these issues, we can see that they're important to today's society. We've seen that different organizations have already said that current infrastructure that we have is overstretched. It's becoming too old and dilapidated. Thus, we have to invest in it. But whenever we spent $1 trillion on it through a bipartisan infrastructure bill, but we've seen no changes, obviously this is a still relevant topic. Throughout history, it's also continued to be relevant. It was as relevant during the Industrial Revolution as it is today. And as technology continues to increase, it's really important that we examine areas like chemical security, emergency services, food and agriculture, or waste management. So whenever we see these advantages, we see a great divide between app and neg ground, where we're allowed to look at it from multiple different areas. We can talk about generic disads all day, but we can also see topic-specific ones as chemical security, and different areas like that are going to be able to have specific focuses on them. With that, I urge a vote for affirmations.
Okay, since I've been talking about this constantly for the last 3 years, I should be able to say a few words on it. Americans are suffering through an epidemic of chronic disease led by cardiovascular disease, obesity, diabetes, poor mental health, digestive disorders, autoimmune, cancer, etc. Center for Disease Control says this is a huge cause of our medical expenses, and generally it's poor metabolic health. It's insulin resistance that Americans suffer. The federal government and the federal dietary guidelines, I would argue, are a cause of this in telling the public that we need to restrict fat and saturated fat and instead eat more carbohydrates. But there's other issues as well. Federal dietary guidelines, those students might not be familiar with it by that term, that decides what food is served in the schools, the prisons, the hospitals, the elder care homes, the military, and it's generally unhealthy food for most Americans. It's fine if you're metabolically healthy, but only about 8% of Americans are. Okay, so I proposed that students research the effect of the food they eat on their health. And I think this is an exciting topic for students to learn more about. And, oh, let me start my timer. Okay, sorry about that.
40 seconds.
Yeah, so what I thought on this is it's just carbohydrates, but others say it's ultra processed foods, it's excess sugar, it's fructose, could be a whole range of other things, but it's an important area for students to study. Americans are much heavier than they used to be. You can blame the pharmaceutical companies, processed food industry, government, but students would benefit from researching from this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have to tell you, this was a paper that for me was really hard to get motivated to be writing, even the course of the spring. And going into February and March, really hadn't made a whole lot of progress on it. And then 50 miles from us, the Rolling Fork tornado happened. And it was a series of tornadoes that basically leveled 3 towns in Humphreys and Sharkey County, Mississippi, which are 2 of the 100 poorest counties in the United States. And then the motivation came. And in terms of thinking about these sorts of disasters, in terms of thinking about the way that the federal government managed to mishandle Katrina, and in the way in which after 9/11, the federal government became obsessed with its disaster planning being all about terrorism, made me realize that disaster preparedness is one of those things that you never want to have to think about, but it's also one of those things that you don't want to have to do on the fly. And so then suddenly in March, the motivation came to get this paper done and to bring it forward to this committee. One of the things that I'm going to be asking the Marshall Committee to take a look at is the first 2 resolutions, and really to decide whether we need to have limiters in the resolution and focus the topic area, or to go for a broader perspective on the resolution. Disaster preparedness is something that we all have to be ready for. It is something that we don't want to have to think about, but the events of the last 3 years should convince us that this is something that we really need to keep at the forefront of our thoughts. Thank you.
Right. So I did education reform really at the last minute. The reason why is because I really felt a need. I'm a consultant now. And me going to many districts within Louisiana, I've actually seen firsthand what's going on with the lack of funding, the lack of opportunity there are for marginalized and minority students within rural areas, even in urban areas where I'm from. And which reminded me of a particular poem by Langston Hughes named Theme for English Media. I'm not going to read the poem itself, but however, I'm going to give you a little background of it. The poem was about the experience of being a Black boy, the only one in his class in New York school in the early 20th century. Hughes writes that his experience in the world will be different from those white peers. And they were, and their white teacher as well, are united by being an American. This acknowledgement of what brings them together, but also what marks them out to be different. And that's the main concept there, is that many individuals like myself and other marginalized areas within Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, so on and so forth, we know we're American. However, the opportunity that's there is lacking because we don't see it. Teachers don't see it. Opportunities don't see it as well, which brings me to the actual paper itself.
It brings in three concepts. One, teacher recruitment and retention, the concept of early childhood education, as well as Title I funding. It's a little bit different from 5 years, 6 years ago, for that particular topic, because it's really bringing in more so of can we solve the concept of teacher recruitment and retention, having teachers and educators, particularly educators that look like me, that look like the actual community itself out there to help us and help other individuals out within that community overall, how to go about increasing the level of money going into these schools and benefiting those who are in need of it. Thank you.
This is a resubmission of a paper that we brought forth in conjunction with the Washington Urban Debate League in 2022. It is a paper that was also resubmitted in 2013 and 2019. The last 3 years since the 2020 election should convince us why this is a topic that we need to be discussing. And if we're looking for a topic where the evidence is likely to win debates in September, is not going to win debates in December, and is not going to win debates at NSDA, it's going to be this year. We're going to have a general election in 2024, which is probably news to no one in this room. And there's going to be a whole set of postmortems and reactions to these that is going to just change the way that we think about these elections. And it's probably not an understatement to say that the Democratic Republic of the United States may well be hinging in the balance on this. That's all. Financial regulation.
Once again, I think financial regulations would be an excellent topic to debate. It's an incredibly interesting topic with things like inflation, COVID, the increasing introduction of AI and blockchain into the financial sector. There's a ton of different ways that monetary policy is changing, creating new challenges and new opportunities. This creates a very interesting and balanced topic, which requires the affirmative to create new standards in the financial sector that are distinct from everyday changes and everyday requirements that exist. That's an excellent varsity topic, but it also functions well for novices. The question of debating regulations, disclosures, fraud, and corporate governance, these are novel questions that can be asked about rules that we've placed on corporations that allow people to discuss their everyday lives in relationship to monetary policy, and helps debaters explore the relationship between the economy and their everyday lives in a novel topic. This topic can develop tons and tons of literature while still maintaining its balance throughout the entire year, which allows for robust varsity debate, accessible novice debate, and literature from things as complex as regression charts and business law journals to economic journalism and news articles that cover the everyday aspects of the economy. Long story short, there's a variety of evidence available. There's a variety of interest points that students can explore. And that, all harmonized under a balanced topic, facilitates an excellent year of debate. Thank you.
Future of U.S. healthcare.
For the last 19 years, Grey's Anatomy has inspired many students to enter the medical field in hope of saving a life. Thank you. While viewers may fall in love with Meredith Grey and the arguably somewhat accurate portrayal of the medical field, there are many real-life issues addressed in the show, such as mental health, COVID, Alzheimer's, addiction, racial inequalities, etc. The U.S. healthcare system fails to deliver the most cost-effective care and suffers substantially from medical errors and waste. As we navigate our way through the world of healthcare, we go on a journey that is fraught with poverty, staffing shortages, lack of resources, politics, affordability, health disparities, price gouging, environmental impact, and so much more. My students and I propose the future of the United States healthcare system as a topic for the 24-25 policy debate season. The complexity of the healthcare industry in the United States ensures a year of stimulating debate. The affirmative would be tasked with defending the substantial increase of funding concerning the healthcare system. This topic also allows for a very broad range of negatives. Teams can utilize a diverse set of strategies that encompass both policy and critical argumentation. Policy debaters will engage with government policy, private industry, and innovation. Regardless of the style of debate within the circuit, this resolution will allow students at all levels to easily find and research both literature and argumentation for the affirmative and negative positions. Healthcare is one of the most significant topics in the United States, and citizens currently rank healthcare as the most important voting issue. Further, healthcare reform is the only issue that garners a majority of support from both registered Democrats and Republicans alike. Secondly, the healthcare continues to be the largest area of federal spending. In 2021, the US spent $4.3 trillion. The COVID-19 pandemic revealed the vulnerabilities within the American healthcare system and sparked broad-ranging discussions regarding the necessity of reform that makes this a timely topic to debate. In the immortal words of Derek Shepard, today is a beautiful day to save a life.
I had a couple goals when coming up with this paper. The first, I wanted a truly legal topic. We've had shockingly few of those in high school debate, despite the fact that a substantial amount of freshmen who are interested in speech and debate do so because they want a future career as lawyers. In fact, the closest we've approximated to legal topics was criminal justice reform several years ago. And prior to that, it was likely search and seizures, which was my freshman year of high school in 2006. Additionally, intellectual property rights has never been debated at the high school or college level. I think this is a great topic for speech and debate. I think it affects students across country. I think it's accessible at all levels. This topic does differ from the copyright topic in that it goes the opposite direction, which I think is a strength for this topic. This would strengthen intellectual property rights in America, which means it cuts against the grain of the status quo. For the past 15 years in America, we've seen policies and Supreme Court decisions that have sought to weaken intellectual property rights throughout the country to combat a variety of problems that the federal government has seen, such as patent trolls, the increasing cost of healthcare, things like that. This topic guarantees that it will generate controversy. It forces the affirmative to defend a policy that is not necessarily a publicly popular one, which means that the affirmative is not going to be able to get away with defending truisms. This is a great topic for debate at all levels, whether local, traditional, or national circuit, because there is a robust amount of case debate, robust and consistent topic disadvantages, and a variety of counter plans that people can run. Additionally, I think that by adding copyright and trademark to this resolution, you open up a vast array of critical arguments that justify chaos that also are in the direction of the topic. I think this is a great topic for novices because the mechanism of protecting property rights is simple enough to understand. It's an outstanding topic for older debaters as well because they can get as deep into the research as they possibly want. There might be concerns over access to legal journals. However, via NSDA membership, you have free access to Hein Online, and the vast majority of legal journals owned by college universities have made themselves open access. The entirety of this paper was put together in journal articles that were able to be accessed for free.
My name is Rob Owens. I coach at a very small, very rural high school in Kansas. And I've got a question for you before we get too far into this. What did the big boy atomic bomb say to the nuclear missile? Nuke, I am your father. I'm gonna try and line them up. Okay, well, started off writing this paper several months ago. We wanted to focus on a resolution that forced the kids to focus on action rather than actors. Sam, I can speak for Sam and myself. We're both tired of judging states counterclaim debates, and we want some actual case debate and so on. So this is our kind of an answer to that. The impact of this resolution or this topic is that it affects all students everywhere. You can see that the effect of it is on everybody in terms of what would happen if we were attacked. But to go beyond that, it's also affecting the college, or not the college, the high school debate circuits, because most of the argumentation, the impact level usually focuses on nuclear extinction. And it's time that the kids understand all the policies and the politics that go into those decisions, rather than just saying, you're gonna get nuked. Okay. Research around the 90% of this paper was put together with just a simple Google research, which also affects a majority of the students in this. There's going to be applicable information that they can reach at their fingertips, as well as the extensive research that can be done otherwise. There's a large negative ground here. There are several generic arguments that could be applied to this, but also the development of several specific arguments, specifically nuclear deterrence, things like that nature. Affirmative ground is good, whether the focus of the resolution is going to be large or narrow. It lends itself to that very easily. Good for novice access and good for varsity students to explore.
And the one part of this paper that, oh, am I out of time? No, well, it was lovely talking. Social media.
First, thank you, James, for saying social media is everywhere. You played right into my point. Social networks make you vulnerable and offer nothing in return. These are the infamous words of Joe Goldberg, America's beloved stalker and serial killer. Much like the Netflix show You, this topic proposal is sure to provide many twists and turns as we go on in journey to find a plausible solution to the present day horror story known as social media. Viewers know they should hate Joe, but they find themselves being drawn into his addiction to love and social media, just like so many of our students who regularly compete in policy debate. Just like the female lead Beck, our students post on social media about going to class, hanging with friends, and the all-important selfies. While the internet may not be a black void that's going to tell a stalker our apartment number, or is it? It may in fact lead to a much darker path than we initially realized. Social media regulation is one of the most significant socio-political topics in the United States, as almost 90% of Americans use social media. Even grandmas are making TikToks. My students and I propose the regulation of social media in the 21st century as a topic. The affirmative will be tasked with defending the substantial increase or creation of regulations by the United States government concerning social media companies. This topic allows for a broad range of negatives, and teams can utilize a diverse set of strategies that encompass both policy, critical, and CP argumentation. Regardless of the style of debate or the circuit, this allows students at all levels to easily find and research material. Social media is not only timely, but meets the requirements of the domestic debate topic. Debaters will look at our government's lack of social media policies and determine what does and does not need to change. Social media is in desperate need of regulation due to its effects in areas such as academics, cyberbullying, physical and mental health, privacy, freedom of speech, etc. American society is dependent on social media, whether we like it or not, and continuing calls for government regulation make this resolution incredibly timely. Thank you.
All right, can't be Grey's Anatomy on the intro. I'm gonna ask something I hope is semi-interesting. So in terms of papers that are student focused, I think waste management affects students not only in a system that affects them, but something they affect every single day. Gen Z is supposed to be the greenest, most environmental loving, tree hugging generation. But in a lot of ways, they don't actually know that the tactics from the 60s, from the 70s, from the 80s, from the 90s no longer work because of the way in which waste management now has become a profit-based agenda. And so when they go out and they say just be green, a lot of the products that they are rooting for and that they want to buy are actually not green, and they go into landfills, even though they think they're being recycled. In terms of timeliness, we're starting to see the introduction of bills that obviously are not going to pass in the next year, but they're starting to move into a conversation of moving us to a zero waste society. I think this topic is balanced because there are large affirmatives, but a core and unified set of negative generics that limit out small apps. In terms of some of the concerns about that, the last 2 years, inflation and unemployment, kids are already familiar with the language of the negative disadvantages that they would have to be familiar with in order to read and win on the negative. In terms of the affirmative, and against 50 states counterplan, the literature is very clear that the federal government has a role in cleaning up what is currently a wild west of waste management that states currently run independently. And with the exception of, I think, one source in the paper, all of the sources so far that you have access to were found via Google. So I think it's an accessible topic. I think it's timely. I think it's important, and hope you give it a consideration.
Okay, so thank you to all topic authors for their brief introduction to each paper. That combined with the debatability roundtable hopefully gets everyone set up well for the partial subcommittees, which we are about to go into. Yeah, you can't read that. So Kyle has emailed out everybody's Marshall Subcommittee assignments. Hopefully you have seen that. If not, I will put this up here. But Kyle is the latest and greatest. Where these rooms are is Cascade A, B, and C are right outside this room here. Down the hallway, there are signs for each one of them. We have Garden A. If you go down towards the lobby, you'll see an NFHS debate topic meeting sign up there with an arrow. Just follow those signages and arrows, and you'll eventually find the room. I believe Kyle and Ken are also stationed themselves up there to go direct anyone to those rooms. So in Cascade A, we have affordable housing, agricultural subsidies, intellectual property rights, and nuclear weapons reductions. In Cascade B, we have American Arctic policy, copyright, critical infrastructure, waste management. In Cascade C, we have biomedical ethics, financial regulation, future of U.S. healthcare, social media, and in room 4, Garden A, we have dietary reform, disaster preparedness, chief informed election, democracy reform. These will begin at 2 p.m. So we have about 15 minutes. I take that back, 3 minutes. So let's do this. Let's start at 2:05. So everyone's got 8 minutes to go find your room, so a bit, use the restroom. We'll start Washington committees at 2:05. Thank you.
Just so you know, James, that's not the most recent wording.
I know that's.
Yes.
Yeah, that's I was thinking about that, maybe it's.
Really?
So yeah, you kind of got other
Kevin.minch@gmail.
We're going to start here in about 2 minutes. If you are a boarding committee member and have your resolutions, send an email to Kevin Finch. And Kevin, what is your email address?
Kevin.minch@gmail.
Kevin.minch@gmail. Boarding committee members, please send your resolutions to Kevin.
I'd like your Mitch, I put it here.
I can find it.
Or come see Kevin in the table.
Can I come back?
We're beginning in 2 minutes.
Well, my computer is dead, so by the time it turns on,
All right, hold on just a second.
How's the majority skill? Good.
ag subsidy. USFG. Should substantially decrease its agricultural subsidies for domestic agriculture.
Okay.
Affordable housing. USFG should substantially increase its funding for and/or regulation of affordable housing in the US. My computer's dead. By the time it warms up, you'll be done and we'll be beginning. Okay. Intellectual property rights. USFG. Could significantly strengthen its protection of domestic intellectual property rights in one or more of the following. Copyrights, patents, trademarks.
All right, is that it for you?
No, I'm sorry, and nuclear.
Okay.
The USFG could substantially reduce the size and or roles, yes, of its nuclear weapons arsenal.
Where are we next year? Where's this meeting next year?
Des Moines, Iowa.
What? Yeah, I saw it one. All right, I think we're good. What was that?
Putting it up there. We're gonna send it on both machines.
No, I just. Plus. I've got this second stretch.
Nope, he didn't come this way. Signal needs.
I have to have the email list to do that.
Oh, we send Kyle. We're gonna reconvene here. I got an announcement real quick. If you are staying at the Hampton or the Spring Hill Space and lost your card, get back to your room, they're up here.
Oh, no.
Otherwise, it's the front desk, they do know. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started with resolutions committee of commercial subcommittees right now. If you want to feverishly take notes on the resolutions, you may do so. Otherwise, look for an email from Kyle shortly after this meeting. You can email out to everybody, so you'll have to. Kyle, if you heard that, just be ready for that. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do now is we're gonna go through each of the commercial subcommittee reports. We do have a wording committee member from each area that will give a report on the topic is what it is. And then we'll move forward on there. After that process is completed, we'll do a 25% straw poll vote on what we'll move forward to tomorrow. That is going to hit a 25% threshold because it's a low threshold. However, it's one just to make sure that as a body, we recognize reports on tomorrow. So I will go ahead and we'll talk about who wants to do what. I'll put the microphone on the wording committee table and they can discuss what they are doing.
All right, affordable housing. The resolution that is being proposed for the body, the United States federal government should substantially increase its funding for and or regulation of affordable housing in the United States. There was conversation about negative ground on this, and it was answered incredibly well in the Marshall. Some of the federal ground deals with, some of the negative ground deals with whether the federal government is a credible actor regarding policies that are currently in place and things that are going to be dealing with zoning laws and incentives coming out of that. Also potential politics DAs that will occur during an election cycle, which could be entertaining. And the author also expressed an interest in allowing students to debate what happens next. So if this were the potential topic for the 24-25 year, we will be coming off of an income inequality year and then moving into. So if we were able to reach a place where people had more income and there was more income inequality, equality, then what happens as a next result in terms of policy? And we thought that that could be entertaining. So this is the resolution that is being proposed for you. Ag subsidies.
Affordable housing, the affording housing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good catch.
Thank you. Next would be ag subsidies. Agricultural subsidies was the next in our Marshall. We're going with the United States federal government should substantially decrease its agricultural subsidies for domestic agriculture. And this wording is being proposed because this is the wording that we spent so long last year dealing with. Who has Arctic?
Arctic for us. Okay, so for the American Arctic policy, the resolution that's being proposed is the United States federal government should substantially increase its defense infrastructure and or economic development in the Arctic region. And we talked about in our discussion just whether we should use the word military or security or defense right before the word infrastructure. And when we, we went back and forth, and when we spoke, the author had said, just after looking at the literature, that defense was the preferred term. We wanted to stay away from military to try to avoid like that nuclear war. We did put in its before defense infrastructure, just so that we could, not include the word, include NATO to make it really specific. Let's see. I think that was about it for that one. Biomedical.
Okay, so this resolution reads the United States should substantially increase its restrictions on regenerative medicine and or genetically modified organisms in the United States. The two primary changes from the recommendations in the topic paper. The first was to remove the word stem cells and replace it with regenerative medicine, which is broader than just stem cells, but this was in response to a concern that was raised about debating a stem cells topic in conservative states where legislatures could respond. There could be a response, yes, that is negative, and hopefully this kind of like includes stem cells without making it so obvious. The second is that it doesn't include development. The wordings in the paper mostly focused on the development of stem cells or development of genetically modified organisms. And this excludes that in a way that makes the topic potentially a little bit broader. And that was decided upon as being a benefit. The third thing I want to note about this is that this is the only resolution, at least from my group, that does not include the actor, the United States federal government. That was an intentional choice based on the solvency deficits to the state's counterplan not being durable enough to sustain, potentially not being durable enough to sustain a years-long debate, and the overpowering nature of the state's counterplan. And for several people in our group, that was seen as making this topic more palatable than it would be otherwise, based on that lack of a clear deficit in the state's counterplan. Are there any questions?
So with that last caveat, the act covers both the federal government and state government.
Yeah, so the United States can be defined in a variety of ways, and this has been kind of stress tested on 3 college topics. And the idea, so the United States can mean either the states or the federal government, or it can be thought of as a geographic territory, like all of the geographic territory of the United States, and maybe be more agnostic on the particular actor involved. So the idea is that an act could either be the states, or they could be vague about which actor they are, so make a permutation against the state counterpart. Questions?
I don't know what's next. It's copyright. That is.
Okay, for copyright, the proposed resolution is the United States federal government should significantly reduce copyright protections in the United States. We did have a lot of discussion within the subcommittee about the word significantly versus substantially. And we talk a lot about just fair use, like how much it's being used in terms of copyright. We did talk about just reinforcing or strengthening the enforcement of copyright, and also with that, a reduction of copyright terms. We did put the phrase "in the United States" in at the end because the committee felt that it was necessary to include that. So that's something that the wording committee can, take a look at, but we really felt like we needed to include that in this resolution. Any questions on that one?
All right, critical infrastructure. Okay, so for critical infrastructure, we came up with the United States federal government should substantially increase its protection of chemical and or nuclear critical infrastructure sectors in the United States. We had a lot of discussion within the subcommittee about reforms versus protections, and we talked about what the actual literature says as far as nuclear management. And we decided to use the word protections. The one thing we did struggle with was where to put the word critical, to put it, do we put it before nuclear or before chemical? But we decided to just make it clearer and just say chemical and or nuclear critical infrastructure sectors in the United States. Sectors is a term that is used in the literature, so we stuck with that.
So this is a change of the dietary guidelines topic. So we changed it to resolve the United States federal government should substantially expand its food and or nutrition security programs in the United States. The idea was that we wanted to retain the core controversy around dietary guidelines that was in the paper, but we would think about like what's the policy angle here. So we broadened those to be under the various programs which are within the USDA. Ideally, we can keep the sort of core conversations about nutrition in the paper, but also retain some policy controversy. The reason there's an and or is so that plans don't have to expand both food and nutrition. And then we added in the United States at the end to exclude foreign aid. Happy to answer any questions. I also have disaster preparedness. So this one has become the United States federal government should substantially increase its domestic preparedness for one or more of the following: infectious disease outbreaks, natural hazards, terrorism. So there are a few changes made from the paper to this. None of them are massive. So we've added it substantially, so there's some sort of scope of the topic action. We've added domestic to make sure that we're not preparing like foreign countries in these areas. We replaced the diseases phrase with infectious disease outbreaks. I think that was just more of a sort of precision thing based on what's in the literature. And then we replaced effects of climate change with natural hazards. Again, what is like the government actually used to describe these things. So yeah, the major changes here were mostly around just making sure we're using the actual words the government uses with respect to the relevant programs. This is also me. So this is a change of the education topic that was submitted. The wording now is the United States federal government should substantially increase its funding of one or more of the following areas in the United States: early childhood education, elementary education, secondary education. So it includes early childhood from the topic paper, and we broadened the teacher recruitment section and Title I schooling section to be more broadly elementary and secondary education. We kind of iterated on the education topic, which was 6-7 years ago, but we deleted the regulations part of it, which was the main point of innovation for a lot of the latter half of that season. And we also added early childhood in because that was an area not discussed in that previous topic. Cool, and this is also me. The electoral topic is resolve the United States federal government should substantially increase its regulation of elections in one or more of the following areas: drawing of legislative districts, campaign finance, electoral integrity, strengthening voting rights. A lot of this conversation happened last year, so we mostly were discussing the various ideas within this list. The topic author spelled this covered the core areas of the topic paper, which were gerrymandering, campaign finance, electoral integrity, and voting rights. You'll notice that we dropped foreign electoral interventions. We thought it made enough sense under electoral integrity, and there was also a concern that it might encourage international meddling, like the US meddling in foreign elections. And yeah, I think that's sort of it there.
Okay, so this is the financial regulations topic. The changes from the topic paper are actually pretty small. So we moved anti-fraud disclosures and or corporate accountability from the middle of the sentence to the end, hoping to kind of make the initial read of the resolution more accessible and friendly. We uncapitalized anti-fraud disclosures and corporate accountability. We had some discussion about whether or not institutions or intermediaries was the best term. We started this morning with institutions, shifted to intermediaries. I believe that our conclusion is now back on institutions. Lacey? Yeah. Okay, cool. So I think we've landed on institutions.
That changed, or is that?
That should be what it is. It should be institutions. Thank you. The one small discussion that we had a lot of discussion. The one that I want to note is the reason why we're specifying anti-fraud disclosures and corporate accountability is because there recently were regulations on financial institutions following the collapse of several banks dealing with their holdings. So I think like the amount of cash that they had to have on hand to repay debtors. That's why that specification is there, to discourage an affirmative from being able to write an affirmative that was only questionably inherent but could not unique every disadvantage. Questions? Yeah.
This is very, very nitpicky, but haven't we been, this was a discussion our Marshall subcommittee had, haven't we been moving toward making this alphabetical?
We can correct that.
That makes sense to me.
Do we need the and or the in one or column?
We don't.
No.
Any other questions?
Now you're in your comment.
Right. Intentionally. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so this is the healthcare, this is the resolutional iteration of the healthcare topic paper. We chose this one largely because it gets to the heart of the topic author's intent, which is to have people be able to more easily access affordable healthcare. The kind of concern that was raised is whether or not you can tell on face whether or not a plan substantially increases access to affordable healthcare services. So the question was raised about whether or not this required an act to be solvent, to be topical. And so that's kind of a concern that I guess we should note moving forward about this. Unsettled questions are healthcare, one word or two. The topic author noted that research was done on this question to indicate that it's one. I've now received an email with reference from an expert that says that it should be two. So we should do some research about that question, and that will hopefully be figured out by the end of the day. Questions?
Were there any potential wordings that, have the question of beyond insolvency?
Yeah, so it was heavily focused on, well, I guess there were three. Okay. One was focused on the question funding, which was a heavy emphasis in the topic paper. That was rejected by the Marshall subcommittee, largely on the grounds that funding alone can be done by other actors, including states, making the affirmative too constrained versus the state's counterplan. The two other options were to provide universal health care, so either a single payer or maybe some other public option, something like that. And that was not in line with what the topic authors wanted. And then the third option was to regulate the pharmaceutical industry, which again was seen as too narrow and not able to access some of the other access concerns that were beyond just the drug market. Yep.
Okay, so for IPR, we came up with the United States federal government should significantly strengthen its protection of domestic intellectual property rights in one or more of the following: copyrights, patents, trademarks. Couple of things about this. So we spent some time discussing whether we needed to list out copyrights, patents, and trademarks. The topic author thought that those were kind of the key elements in the literature that should be debated and the key controversies. There's also some discussion about listing the three areas as being good for kind of a balance of breadth and depth compared to some of the other resolutions. We also corrected the word expand to strengthen, which the topic author thought was more in the literature. there any questions? I can also do nukes. So we spent probably more time discussing this than the other three combined. And came up with the United States federal government should substantially reduce the size and or roles of its nuclear weapons arsenal. There was some discussion about the word restrict versus reduce. There was someone who brought up a concern about literally reducing the size of the weapons. Some discussion about that. There was also some discussion about whether roles needed to be singular or plural. The nuclear posture review, which the topic author says comes out about every decade, talks about the roles of the nuclear weapons arsenal. There's also discussion about the word arsenal compared to some alternatives. So I would say this is kind of a tentative wording. A lot of the, I think, wordings that some people liked were a little bit less elegant and where people were a little concerned about the word CISAD or just the resolution sounding kind of inelegant. So I think this is probably a somewhat tentative wording of resolution.
So this is the social media resolution that we landed on. The primary change in this is that the previous resolution stated that it should increase regulation of social media companies and or platforms. A concern was raised that that might allow for regulations that are not really related to social media yet on those companies. So for example, a labor or environmental regulation on that company. And it seemed like most of the examples of topical affirmatives that the topic author wanted to include dealt with the content on social media. So cyberbullying, its effects on mental health, misinformation, etc. So this change, instead of regulating the company or the platform, has the federal government regulate the content. One comment was made that this, I think, like by definition, would require either the repeal or significant amendment of Section 230 of the Digital Copyright, the DCMA, Digital Copyright Millennium Copyright Act, which said that the federal government basically chose to leave content moderation up to the companies themselves. So affirmatives in this area would make affirmative claims about the content being harmful. Negative teams would argue that that government mandate violates free speech, or that it chills innovation at those companies or forces social media companies to choose to move offshore.
Okay, for waste management, resolution we decided on was the United States federal government should substantially decrease domestic waste by regulating municipal solid waste. The one thing that was changed from the resolution in the original paper was we eliminated regulating the disposal of and just made it regulating municipal solid waste. We talked a lot about in the subcommittee just the goal of having less to get rid of just by regulating the waste. That the solid waste just includes, it doesn't include liquid, it doesn't include construction waste, and the goal of recycling, we talked a little bit about that. And with recycling, you're not trying to dispose of anything. You're just, with this, the goal, the author had said for this paper, the goal was to decrease the total amount of waste. So we were looking at the production of waste versus the amount of waste. And we talked a lot about just how zero waste is the preference. And we're not talking about like sending waste to another country or sending it somewhere else. We're talking about just completely, decreasing it. So we felt like taking that word disposal out was important. I think that was about it.
That's it.
That was it.
Where's James?
All right, I'm gonna switch back.
Okay. You don't need to roll through this while you're voting.
Okay, everybody, so now is our time to see what is moving forward. So here's how this works. Everyone in the room is allowed to vote in this particular process. And just to be clear, everyone here tomorrow is also allowed to vote in this particular process. We're now restrict voting down to delegates until the final voting rounds, which occur on Sunday morning. So every time we vote from here until Sunday morning, everyone in the room is allowed to vote. So what we're gonna do now is we're going to take a 25% straw poll vote to see if we're moving each one forward. As we go through, I'll read the topic and the resolution. We'll ask for a vote. Myself and then Kyle will vote, will count to make sure we have at least 25%. Which in this role here, we need at least 15 people to vote yes. Okay? So Kyle wants to be at 15. Okay. All right, affordable housing, United States federal government should substantially increase its funding for and or regulation of affordable housing in the United States. Raise your hand and move it on to tomorrow. That's 15. Agriculture subsidies, the United States. Okay. Great. I'm supposed to read it.
Well, that is before we have projections.
Okay, then I need to update that rule. All right, American Arctic policy. Raise your hand if you'd like to move it on to tomorrow. Great. Biomedical ethics. Raise your hand and move it on to tomorrow. Okay. Copyright. Raise your hand and move it on to tomorrow. Great. Critical infrastructure. Raise your hand and move it on to tomorrow. Okay. Food and nutrition security. Raise your hand and move it on to tomorrow. Raise your hands. Okay. Next one. Sorry, some of you rose your hand like this, and I didn't know to raise your hand. Disaster preparedness and resilience. Raise your hands high so we see them all. Great, thank you. Education reform. Okay. Electoral and democracy reform. Okay. Financial regulation. Future of US healthcare. Some people rose their hand before you. Intellectual property rights. And we have a typo in the title. Okay. Thank you. Nuclear weapons reduction. Okay. Social media. Last but not least, waste management. Okay, so all topics will move ahead to tomorrow. Here's what will happen tomorrow. I need to switch. So congratulations to all topic authors for going through today. Sorry, give me a moment here. Oh, no. Okay, so tomorrow is when the fun really begins. So hopefully everyone had a good day today. I look forward to your feedback on the new Bid-Related roundtables. If you have feedback you'd like to share with me tonight at dinner, please do so. If you just want to put it on your evaluation, you're welcome to do it as well. Tomorrow, August 5th, we'll start at 7:30 in the morning for breakfast. You do not have to have breakfast with us, but if you would like to not be late for breakfast, you're welcome to join us for that. I'll be down here in the room where we have lunch. And the wording committee will meet at 7:30. So wording committee members, remember, we're at a my time limit, and we have a 7:30 a.m. meeting. Everyone else breakfast is available for you until 8:30. At 8:30, we'll start with the resolution wording review here in this room. So be ready for that. Lunch, and then we'll have a 1 p.m. resolution wording continued. So right now, the schedule will begin at 8:30 and is scheduled to go to 3:20 for first readings of all resolutions. If we need callbacks, oh, it's fun. If we need callbacks, the first callback is scheduled to begin at 3:40. So tomorrow will be a lot of resolution days. Then we'll do our second vote similarly today, and we'll make sure that we definitely have the count And then you're available to explore Portland anytime tomorrow afternoon to finalize. Tonight, we are very fortunate to have the Portland Spirit Dinner Cruise as our group activity. If you are planning on going and you did not sign up, let us know right now. If you did sign up and all of a sudden you're like, whoop, I can't go, let us know that also right now. Excuse me, so we may have transportation. Speaking of transportation, the bus will leave here at 5:30. If you're not on it or on a alternate transportation that we have arranged for you, you are not going to the dinner cruise with free transportation. You're going to the dinner cruise on transportation on your own dollar. But so meet down in the lobby at 5:20, and then we'll get everyone loaded up, and the bus will leave at 5:30. Jennifer and Susan, anything you guys like to add to that?
If you are driving separately, they start loading at 6:30, but because we're a group, I think we should try to go in together. And if you have any dietary restrictions, just let your waiter or waitress know. We have paid for the tip in advance, but if you feel generous after a couple of Mai Tais and want to. They're never gonna be close to an extra tip, but everything is.
All right, does anybody else have any questions or comments? You do not need your badge to get into this level you are, but if you're like me, you'll forget you're wearing it, wear it through. Does anybody else have any questions or comments to end day one? Thank you for a great day one, looking forward to seeing you tonight in there.
So after all the voting was done, I got an email from Dustin saying they gave us the wrong. House. I switched it on the Google Doc and I emailed you and. So I was so engrossed in that, I wasn't paying attention when you said we. 5:20. In the lobby.
All right. I have no idea about that. I actually. Yes, good.
Sounds good. Thank you.